Mayor Zaragoza, council members, and members of the public. My name is Rosie Ornelas, and I'm the Economic Development Project Manager located within the Housing Department. I'm here to give you an update on the Downtown Improvement Program settlement funds. By way of background, in April of 2015, a settlement was reached and finalized between the city and the developers of Centennial Plaza. After a long-standing dispute, funds were earmarked for downtown revitalization. The settlement involved the distribution of funds derived from the development of a new River Park theater complex at the collection. The settlement funds were intended to offset the potential impact that the theater complex at the collection might have on downtown Oxnard. These settlement funds were placed into a city account titled Downtown Improvement Program Settlement Funds. $6.15 million was earmarked for downtown revitalization. It is estimated that at the end of fiscal year 2021-2022, the ending unassigned fund balance will be approximately $4 million. As a reminder, some of the projects that have previously been funded with this money have been lighting improvements, a pilot program for public restrooms in the downtown, the trimming of palm trees in the downtown core, funding that went towards the Downtown Development Code, parking management plan, an arts hub, and the salary of a downtown revitalization manager. In December of 2019, staff presented to the council a multi-pronged approach to downtown revitalization, which involved the following elements: addressing the impact of homelessness and vagrancy, seeking private economic investment through the development of city and privately owned properties, creating a clean and safe environment, and creating a vibrant downtown environment. Staff made recommendations for the use of funds for a 3-year timeframe, which focused on creating a physical and safe environment in order to attract economic investment. The 3-year budget appropriations that were made at that time were $50,000 in fiscal year 2019-2020 and $100,000 in the following 2 fiscal years for homeless outreach. $260,000 one-time funds for property management and maintenance that would go towards the demolition of the laundromat building located at 318 West 5th Street, and $65,000 allocated for improvements made to the downtown parking structure. Thirdly, $200,000 annually for 3 years for targeted downtown police employment. And finally, funding for staff and consultants, $147,474 annually for 3 years for city staff. I will note, though, that through the budget process, this amount has been reduced to more closely match the anticipated staff costs. And funding for a consultant, Marco Lamandri, with New City America, in the amount of $91,000 in fiscal year 2019-20, and $90,000 in the 2 subsequent fiscal years. In September of 2019, the city issued a request for proposals for homeless services and outreach in the downtown. Following a review of the proposals that were submitted, the Salvation Army was selected and contracted for to provide these services for the remainder of fiscal year 2019-2020. However, due to the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, the commencement of their outreach and case management services was delayed. Salvation Army Street Outreach Team serves some of Oxnard's most vulnerable residents. $250,000 was budgeted over 3 years, with $86,416, which was projected to be spent over the 3 years due to that delay in hiring staff. Due to these impacts and delays, staff is requesting that the previously appropriated funds be extended to fiscal years 2022-23 and 2023-24. You may note that this is a $7,848 increase from the original approval. Some of the outcomes that have come from the downtown street outreach are summarized here. 235 contacts with homeless individuals. About half of these were referrals to the shelter and half were placements into the shelter. 10 individuals were placed into the Salvation Army ARC treatment or rehab services. 180 hygiene bags were distributed, 71 food bags, 30 homeless individuals were provided with transportation, and 21 received DMV vouchers. They also were able to assist 2 of the top 10 hardest to reach clients, and they assisted them in completing judicial diversion. And the top 10 folks are the group that our police department identifies as having a high volume of police interactions and are the most difficult to engage into services. Although 2 may seem like a small number, it is a huge impact for these 2 individuals as well as for the downtown community. Property management and maintenance. The first property that we are working with is the laundromat. It's located at 318 West 5th Street. $195,000 was allocated towards this building. It is critical that the city invests in nuisance abatement for some of the most challenging properties that we own within the downtown. And the laundromat is one of those such locations. It presents ongoing challenges and has regularly experienced break-ins, which damage not only that building, but some of the adjacent properties and the overall downtown area. These incidents often require responses from the police department, fire department, and facilities, and end up costing the city significant ongoing expenses. Therefore, city staff concluded that the best option was to demolish the building. The estimated cost of that is currently $189,620. In 2020, $14,847 was spent on design fees, and in 2021, the RFP was awarded to a company that would cost us $174,773 to demolish the building. However, that amount does include contingency and funds for engineering, inspections, survey, and project management. In January of this year, the contract was awarded and the construction has begun in March or earlier in this month. Following this project, we will be looking to allocate some ARPA funding to activate that space. The other property that is involved in this funding allocation was the downtown parking structure. Council authorized $65,000 to address some of the safety concerns and to support the ongoing efforts of creating a clean and safe environment in the downtown parking structure. To address these concerns, staff suggested updating the security camera system and lighting in the structure. The initial camera system upgrades were estimated to cost $65,000. The city engaged Guidepost Solutions to generate a camera system design for the structure. During that engagement, and while working with the facilities staff and the Oxnard Police Department, they realized that there was an opportunity and a need to improve overall security in the facility, as well as to realize savings and economies of scale in the system and infrastructure deployment by also addressing the emergency call boxes that are located in the structure at the same time. Guidepost Solutions also determined that the cabling in the facility needed to be upgraded and replaced. In October of 2021, staff amended the engagement to include the emergency call box system design into the scope of work. The drawings for the camera system and the emergency call boxes were submitted for review and final specifications. It is now anticipated that the cost to implement these upgraded designs with the emergency call boxes will be approximately $158,000. A funding source has not been identified yet for the remaining costs. Therefore, staff is proposing to carry these funds over to fiscal year 2022-2023 to give staff the time to identify a funding source and include it in next year's budget. Public safety. Downtown businesses and residents were becoming increasingly frustrated at the growing number of incidents that were occurring downtown. Some of these incidents included burglaries, trespassing, drug use, public urination, and more. The number of police officers that were assigned to the downtown had been reduced from 6 to 2. Business owners were repeatedly hearing from residents that they no longer felt safe going to the downtown, and business owners were being forced to spend more money on safety measures while their customers dwindled. The city therefore drafted stronger ordinances that would assist them in addressing vagrancy. However, they lacked the police presence to enforce these ordinances. It became clear that it would be extremely difficult to attract private investment into the downtown without addressing some of these public safety issues. Therefore, the Oxnard Police Department requested funding from this Downtown Improvement Program Settlement Fund in order to allocate additional police hours to the downtown area. This funding allowed police officers to strategically focus their enforcement efforts and to address criminal behavior during the busiest times. The Police Department's Central Business District deployment has benefited greatly from these funds, which resulted in 40 additional hours per week dedicated to the downtown area. These funds cover overtime and allow for more weekend coverage and a return to alcohol compliance efforts in the evening hours, which at the time the police department was doing very little of. Rather than authorizing additional officer positions, the overtime funding allows for a more direct impact by choosing the busiest hours and days for selective uniformed enforcement. By providing the additional overtime funding limited to service within the downtown, the police department has been able to enhance their efforts directed towards the mitigation of both downtown vagrancy and quality of life issues, as well as the ability to conduct business compliance checks related to both alcohol and beverage control and tobacco regulations. In addition, the police officers were also able to perform small business compliance checks during the COVID-19 emergency. And as you can see from this slide, over 500 citations were issued for various city and state ordinance violations leading up to September of 2021 from December of 2020. And there also were over 500 arrests in the form of misdemeanor citations as a result of this funding. Funding was also allocated towards staff and consultants. In fiscal years 2017, 18, and 18-19, these funds were allocated towards the salary of a full-time downtown revitalization manager. However, in fiscal years 1920, 2021, and 2021-22, that funding was divided up and used to fund a portion of the salaries of the staff that were dedicating their time to drive downtown results. $4,600,153 were budgeted for 3 years. And it is currently projected that $183,829 will be spent on staffing over the 3 years. The other funding is dedicated towards consultants through New City America and the services of Marco Lamandri. $271,000 was budgeted over 3 years, and it is currently projected that $255,000 will be spent over those 3 years. Some of the outcomes of the funding are that the Oxnard Downtown Management District was converted to 501c3 status and is now known as the Downtown Oxnard Improvement Association. An interim board of directors was appointed with working committees, and the board membership was expanded from 6 with the Oxnard Downtown Management District to currently 15 with the Downtown Oxnard Improvement Association. Another outcome was that maintenance services were contracted out instead of being done in-house, which allows the executive director and other staff to focus on development in the downtown. So the financial impact of the downtown improvement funds are that over the 3 years, $1.787 million was allocated for expenses during that 3-year time frame. The total projected expenses is closer to $1.3 million. The actual amounts spent in the 3 years were less than what had currently been anticipated. And we are therefore projecting that at the end of this fiscal year, there will be $4 million left in that balance. Due to the impacts of COVID-19 and some of the delays that resulted in hiring the outreach coordinators, staff is requesting that $85,716 per year be appropriated from this fund for street outreach to continue in fiscal years 22-23 and 23-24. On March 8th, the Community Services, Public Safety, Housing, and Development Committee approved 3-0 the following staff recommendation and are forwarding the item for council approval. First, that they receive an update on the implementation of the approved program priorities funded with the Downtown Improvement Program Settlement Funds. And second, that due to COVID-19 impacts, we recommend that the council appropriate $85,716 per fiscal year in fiscal years 22-23 and 23-24 for a total appropriation of $171,432 for the Homeless Outreach Coordinator contract services as part of the annual budget processes. Thank you.